And here comes the one point, as you mentioned during COVID, giving example of toilet paper and many other things. The real challenge which created a panic in the market was people were not able to see the visibility issue. They're not the movement of goods was not visible to the people, and that visibility created a kind of perception among people in their own way and created a different kind of challenge in the industry altogether. So here I have a question that, of course, visibility has a very broad meaning, but one important thing is that while good move from one stage to other stage, the in transit thing was totally a black box. All right. So
yeah,
my sense is that I talked about it and in the past with various people, studied it, not very clear. So what do you mean by in transit visibility, and how it can help to mitigate some of the supply chain risk which we are talking about? So you give a list of possible supply chain risk. So if you look at visibility as one of the parameter in transit visibility, how it can possibly mitigate it? Can you talk about it?
yeah, Sudhir. I think this is a very interesting question, and there are a lot of misconception moving around in this. So before I explain what is in-transit visibility, as people says, pictures talks about 1,000 words. Let me put up a graphics. It might speak about itself very clearly. Of course, we are giving the freedom of expression to the artist, but the reality is this. The visibility is far from reality. And in fact, we have done a detailed study where we talked to the 3PLs, the 4PLs, and then on the consumer side, the manufacturers and the distributors, and everybody was talking about one thing, that the lack of in-transit visibility is the single largest problem in the logistics industry today. Now, that is so very true. There's one person I was talking to, he summed this up very well. He told that, look, if I'm ordering a $5 pizza, I'm getting a minute by minute delivery tracking. Whereas when I'm ordering a $500 worth of cargo, I'm hardly getting any proportional visibility. It is so very nicely summed up. It's actually the reality of the matter. And that's one of the single largest problem in the industry. So if I want to define what is in transit visibility in a defined fashion, so I would say it's the ability to know or predict the timing, location, and condition of a cargo when it is on the move. Now, it is very important to know that's on the move thing. Currently, the systems that we have are able to provide us visibility when the cargo or the shipment is within the systems. But the moment the cargo is coming out of the system and is put onto a vehicle or a truck and is on the move, the visibility drops to almost zero. And that's where the in-transit visibility problem starts coming out. And the other two aspects of this in-transit visibility is it's the knowledge of what is happening now through the technologies like IoTs or your peripheral computations. All these are giving you the information of what is happening now. But it's also very important to know what will happen tomorrow or what will happen in future. It's predicting. Like if it is already delayed, I should be able to predict and tell you when I should be expecting that delivery to come in. Where this is a classic play of big data analytics, predictive and machine learning technologies, which are coming together along with the latest IoT technologies to create a comprehensive 360-degree in-transit visibility, which is not the explaining what is today or what is the current situation, but also what is likely to be happening if it is delayed. So that's very important. Now, if the risk that I have talked about in the last question, Sudhir, if the one common thread you will see is the lack of visibility is creating all those risks, whatever we have seen. So if we can somehow solve that in-transit visibility, many of those problems, many of the risks can automatically get resolved by itself. So let me talk about the solution side. Let me talk about how in-transit visibility can address some of those or mitigate some of those risks altogether. So one of the foremost thing that we are seeing today is I mentioned about that so much of competition. So creating a differentiated experience towards in the eyes of the customer is so very important now. And in-transit visibility is certainly one of the best means, because you want to create a perception in the mind of the customer that he is or she is in control of things. He or she is getting whatever visibility he wants or she wants. Because in supply chain, there is no issue till there is an issue. So from a service provider's point of view, we can provide that lever to the customer, that they can view, they can see where their cargoes are when it is in transit. That's certainly one of the greatest value they can see. Secondly, we are also seeing that many of the shippers, many of the customers are now demanding that you have to provide ETAs at the container level, because they are measuring things at that level, because they have to in turn be answering to their internal and external stakeholders. So if we can, as a service provider, if we can provide those ETAs, those predicted ETAs at the container level, it will certainly create a differentiating value for you in the eyes of the customer. And there is also one thing that we call WISMO, like is where is my order? So it's not just about knowing where is the container, it's also important to know what is the thing inside the container, where is my order which is being carried inside a container. So if I can track at the not just at the container level, but at the order level or even below at the SKU levels, there it creates the value that a customer would get from a service provider. Right. Now, the interesting thing is that there are companies like Project 44 who are the strongest and have a very large network of in-transit. They have a large network of carriers who are already connected in their network, a huge network. They are the biggest providers of in-transit data. Now, they have it almost like 143,000 load providers, carriers integrated into their network. Almost like 4.3 million drivers are connected. From the sea side, they have almost like 75 global shipping liners part of their network. So not just in road, it is there. They have the network in the air as well as the sea. So anytime, anywhere, if you provide a container number, they can tell you where is that container at this point of time. And they have not just this large network of data, but also machine learning and predictive analytics layer, which is working on those data and creating and predicting where is going to be when is going to be likelihood of delivering that. What is the predicted ETA of those? So platforms and companies like Project 44 are certainly helping companies who are interested to provide this kind of differentiated experience to the customers. Next up, this is very interesting. I would like to talk something about this. It's regarding the safety stock allocation in inventory. You know how the industry works on the inventory level is that they calculate very manually. They take the data of almost like 6 months of data about their transit time. They create an average using Excel, and then they add an extra buffer of transit time to account for the variability. Certainly, that's not the actual way we should be using, because of the dynamicity in the business and the transport industry, it's totally way off. But what is happening in the result, as a result, is you are adding more buffers to your transit time, which is actually increasing your safety stock allocations, and obviously it is increasing the overall inventory storage and handling cost. We have been working with one of the customers where they were adding almost like 5 to 10 days in addition to their existing transit times. So when we work with reliable data which are integrated with the real-time systems, we could found that we can reduce those extra days by almost 4 days. We can reduce by 4 days of transit time, and that was amounting a saving of around $10 million a year for each day of slashing. That's a huge saving if you look at it. So in-transit visibility is just not about visibility. It's about how reliable the data is and how you are consuming and how easily they can be integrated with your systems using systems like API or the TMSs, which can be integrated with them and provide you the real-time feed of information which can help you take the decisions correctly. Then certainly there is something, the minimizing the pilferage in the detention and the demurrage side. I have talked about the big fallacy. You cannot actually validate the claims because you don't know when this detention has happened. But with systems like Project 44 and TMSs, if they can integrate, they can actually create those trackings possible. They can figure out the detentions where it has happened and also keep track of the GPS locations where they are, so that when a freight invoice is coming, then the invoice managers can actually look at those logs and validate where the detention has really happened, and probably save a good amount of pilferage that is happening in the detention demurrage side. Early detection is another big important factor when it comes to in-transit visibility. Like we can set alerts in the systems for any delivery delays that are happening, or route change that are happening, or temperature changes that are happening, that can help the logistics planners and the operations teams to detect those exceptions early in the cycle and take corrective actions. We can provide them the ETA prediction so that they can reroute. We can provide them the port congestion information so that they can decide whether to use this particular port now, or we should reroute it to some other port so that your on-time delivery is unhurt. So early detection is certainly one of the best ways of eradicating most of the risks that we have talked about. Then human collaboration is another important thing in the supply chain, because supply chain is a industry of people, and you cannot eliminate human out of that of this industry. But what is the problem is the customers, if they want to know the shipment status, they have to actually email or call a 3PL. The 3PL has to go and call a carrier dispatcher, and carrier dispatcher probably have to call a driver twice in a day to find out what's the status, and it takes a good amount of time. But technologies like instant messaging platforms, if can be integrated with the TMS, it can create instant access of information and visibility to the customers, and they don't have to wait for that. That's a facilitation. That's a very good facilitation, and that solves a lot of problems. And finally, in procurement decisions. That this is the time of the year where the contracts are renewed. So at this time, if we can get those data of what has been the delivery accuracy, what has been the on-time delivery percentage of the carriers, what has been the invoice accuracies. So then while you're going and renegotiating the terms with the carriers now, the people can have those data ready in their hand to negotiate better. The free time negotiations that people are doing at the port terminals or the carrier liners, they can do it much better if they have the visibility of what amount of lead time we are expecting out of this port at this point of time. So in-transit visibility, if you look at it, if can be integrated with the platforms like Project 44, where they have extensive API integration facilities, we can actually eradicate and mitigate many of the risks that we are talking about today. So this is, I believe, how in-transit visibility acts in the overall scheme of things today.
Yeah, Ritam. So the supply chain industry, is quite evolved, but yes, surprising though, this in-transit visibility somewhere has not caught the attention of many players and has leading to many other things.